You've heard it countless times, haven't you? That phrase, almost a ritual, often spoken without maybe a second thought, in Jesus' name.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
We hear it woven into prayers, echoing through church services, sometimes even, simply before a meal. But how often do we truly pause to consider, is there more to this common utterance than mere habit? What profound significance, if any, lies beneath its widespread use across so many contexts? Is it just a linguistic convention, or is something truly extraordinary meant to happen every time those words are spoken?
That's a powerful question to open with, because as the specific source material we're diving into today immediately establishes, this isn't just about the mechanics of language. It's profoundly about authority. Yeah, it's about understanding a foundational power dynamic that, from this perspective, underpins that particular phrasing.
Exactly. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We've pulled together a stack of insights from fascinating source material, specifically key biblical texts and their accompanying theological commentaries, to really unpack why that name is presented as so remarkably powerful.
Wait, what's behind it?
We're going to explore what these sources suggest actually happens when it's spoken, and what the broader implications are for you, our listener, as you navigate the, complexities of your daily life. Prepare for a deep dive that might just reframe how you've always thought about this familiar phrase. So let's unpack this. When we first encounter the idea of a name carrying immense power, our minds might instinctively conjure images that feel a bit mystical, right?
Sure, yeah. Magic words.
Perhaps like a magical charm you'd find in an ancient text, or an incantation from a fantasy novel where saying the secret words instantly makes something incredible happen.
Abracadabra, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's an easy trap to fall into, I think, given how many stories and cultural narratives associate specific words or names with supernatural effects. It feels like a quick fix, a formula.
And that's precisely what our source material clarifies, right off the bat, drawing a crucial line in the sand. It explicitly states, and I think it's vital we highlight this, the name Jesus isn't magic. It's not a chant or a charm.
Okay, so not magic, that's important.
It's absolutely critical to understanding the source's perspective. If it were magic, its power would be inherent in the sound waves themselves, the specific pronunciation, or perhaps even the sheer force of the speaker's intent in a sort of arbitrary, formulaic way.
Like saying the words correctly is the key.
Right. But by denying its magic, the source immediately redirects our focus. The power, according to this perspective, isn't in the mere utterance itself, but in something far more fundamental, the source or identity behind the name.
Ah, so who the name represents.
Precisely. This suggests a deeper, more structured system of influence at play, rather than just an arbitrary formula you can recite to get a desired effect. Think of it less like a magic word you just say, and more like a precise key, opening a specific powerful system.
A key, I like that analogy.
The power from this viewpoint flows from a specific relationship, from a foundational truth about who this name represents, not just from the phonetic act of speaking it aloud. The name, then, is a conduit, an access point, not a creation of power in itself.
That distinction really clarifies things. It means it's not about the mechanics of sound or, even our own personal charisma or volume, but the being it points to.
Exactly.
And speaking of that being, the source material really leans into the profound identity associated with this name. It says, it's the name of the one who was and is to come.
That's powerful phrasing.
It is, isn't it? That's such a potent, almost poetic description. It speaks to a timeless, eternal, and continuous presence, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It suggests someone whose relevance isn't confined to a historical past, but who exists and influences across all dimensions of time, yesterday, today, and forever.
Absolutely. Within the framework of these theological commentaries, this description elevates the figure of Jesus far beyond, say, a mere historical personality, even beyond a prophet or teacher. It paints a picture of a being with ongoing universal relevance.
So not just history, present reality, future reality.
Right. This isn't just about what was. It's fundamentally about what is and what will be. This eternal identity, according to the sources, is the bedrock upon which the entire concept of the name's authority is built.
Okay.
It's an authority that doesn't diminish with time or circumstance, because the one who holds the authority is himself timeless and unchanging. It signifies a continuous active presence in the unfolding of all things, making the name itself a point of connection to that eternal reality.
And to really drive this point home, the source material quotes Philippians 2, verses 9 and 10, which state, "Therefore God exalted him to the highest place and gave him the name that is above every name, that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow." This isn't just a casual mention. It's a declaration of cosmic significance and a direct statement of unparalleled supremacy within this theological framework.
Precisely. And let's really analyze what it means to be exalted to the highest place and to have the name that is above every name.
What does that look like?
From the perspective of these texts, this highest place signifies ultimate authority and supremacy within the entire universe. It's not just a high position, but the highest, implying an unmatched dominion, a complete and total sovereignty.
The very top.
The very top. And the implication of every knee should bow is profound. It's a vision of universal recognition, a complete and total acknowledgement of this supremacy, extending across all realms of existence. The sources break this down into three key areas of response.
Okay.
First, heaven bows. This suggests from this perspective divine acknowledgement, alignment, and respect from celestial realms. It implies that the spiritual powers and beings in the heavens themselves acknowledge and submit to this name.
So not just humans.
Not just humans. It's not just a human phenomenon to cosmic order. Second, hell trembles.
Trembles. That's a strong word.
It is. It speaks to a profound sense of dominion over opposing negative forces. It's not just a mild discomfort. It's described as a deep, visceral fear, implying ultimate defeat and powerlessness in the face of this name.
Like a fundamental threat.
Yes. The source describes it as a fundamental, existential threat to all that it considers darkness, a dismantling of opposing spiritual influences. Imagine the reaction of someone utterly defeated by a superior force. That's the image the source conveys here for the realm of hell.
Right.
And third, Earth responds. This indicates, from this perspective, a direct and tangible impact on the physical world and human experience. It means the influence of this name is pervasive, reaching into our tangible reality, affecting circumstances, impacting lives, and even influencing the very ground we walk on.
Affecting the physical world.
Yes, an assertion of pervasive influence on all levels of existence.
So it's presented as not just a spiritual concept, but something with real-world implications, even affecting, like you said, the very ground we walk on. And tying into that cosmic authority, the source also declares, because that name carries heaven's seal. That phrase, heaven's seal, truly jumps out at you. What does a seal represent in this context, particularly from the perspective of the commentaries we're examining?
That's a great question. A seal, historically and symbolically, represents several crucial things. Authenticity, absolute authority, undeniable endorsement, and official sanction.
Like a king's seal on a document.
Exactly like that. When something carries a seal, it means it's been officially approved and validated by the highest authority. It's irrefutable proof of origin and power. Think of it like that royal decree, signed and sealed by the monarch, carrying the full weight and backing of the entire kingdom behind it.
Okay, got it.
So, when the source material says this name carries heaven's seal, it's reinforcing that this name is not just powerful, but its power is legitimate, divinely sanctioned, and absolutely authentic. It's not a self-proclaimed power. It's a power that has been bestowed and certified by the ultimate divine authority.
So it's official, divinely official.
Right. This implies that when the name is invoked within this theological framework, it's not just a personal request. It's an activation of an officially recognized and divinely backed authority, an authorized intervention.
Here's where it gets really interesting, I think, because the source then lists some incredibly specific, even extraordinary powers attributed to this name. We're talking about claims like the power to raise the dead, to calm storms, to cast out demons, to break chains that therapy and medication can't touch.
Yeah.
These are not small claims. These are transformative, even revolutionary assertions of power.
No, they are indeed vast in scope, demonstrating an influence that, from this perspective, spans multiple domains. Let's break them down further to grasp their profound implications within the source material.
Please do.
Okay, so, to raise the dead and to calm storms. These speak to dominion over the physical realm, right? Even over life and death itself, and over natural phenomena.
Things we normally consider outside human control.
Exactly. These are powers that fundamentally alter the natural order of things, asserting control over the very fabric of existence, as demonstrated in the source texts by accounts of storms instantly ceasing or individuals returning to life from death. It implies a power that transcends the limitations of the material world.
Okay. Then what about demons?
Right. To cast out demons moves into the spiritual realm. It suggests authority over unseen malevolent forces that, from this theological viewpoint, actively seek to cause harm or oppress. This implies a power capable of direct confrontation and decisive victory against spiritual opposition, a power that can dislodge unseen influences.
Makes sense. But the last one that really hits home.
Yeah, perhaps the most striking claim, and one that resonates deeply for many listeners, I imagine, is to break chains that therapy and medication can't touch.
Tell me more about that. What kind of chains?
Well, this highlights a distinct domain of influence, suggesting solutions that extend beyond conventional human means and scientific understanding. Imagine chronic anxieties that no amount of psychological intervention seems to alleviate.
Or patterns you just can't break.
Exactly. Or generational patterns of brokenness that repeat despite every conscious effort to change them. Or profound feelings of spiritual bondage or hopelessness that defy medical explanation. The source material suggests that this name possesses a unique capacity to address these deeply rooted issues, providing a breakthrough where other methods might fall short.
So it's suggesting a different kind of healing, a different level of freedom.
Yes, it points to a realm of influence that is distinct from and perhaps complementary to scientific or therapeutic approaches. It's not necessarily either, but it addresses something deeper, something those other methods might not reach.
That's a powerful distinction. So when we consider how this power is described as manifesting, is it like a direct force that just explodes outward, almost as if the name itself is the power source? Or is the name more like a conduit, a pipeline through which this underlying ultimate authority operates?
Yeah.
From what you've been saying, it sounds very much like the latter, that the name isn't the power in its raw form, but the access point to it.
You've got it. The source consistently emphasizes authority, which strongly suggests it's a conduit, a channel. The power, from this perspective, isn't in the letters or the sounds of the name in some magical way.
Like we talked about earlier.
Right. It's through the identity to which those letters and sounds refer.
Yeah.
When someone speaks the name, they are not generating power themselves. Rather, according to these texts, they are tapping into or activating the pre-existing, divinely sanctioned authority of Jesus.
Like using that key we mentioned.
Exactly like using the key to unlock a powerful engine. The key itself doesn't possess the power to run the engine, but it provides the necessary access to the mechanism that does start and operate it. The name acts as that key, providing a direct link to the ultimate authority.
Okay.
This understanding shifts the focus entirely from human performance or inherent ability to divine delegation and connection. It means the effectiveness isn't reliant on the speaker's personal power, but on the power they are accessing through the name.
This concept of the name as a conduit for a greater authority really comes to life when we look at the historical examples our source material provides. There's a vivid story in the book of Acts, chapter 3.
Yes, the temple gate.
Exactly. Peter encountering a man who had been crippled from birth, lying there begging for alms. Peter, instead of offering him money, famously declares, "Silver and gold I do not have, but what I do have I give you. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, walk."
Such a powerful moment.
And the man, astonishingly, instantly receives strength in his ankles and walks, leaping and praising God. It's an incredible moment of profound transformation.
And this story is absolutely pivotal for understanding the mechanics of this authority from the source's viewpoint. The commentary makes a crucial distinction here, a foundational truth within this theological framework. Peter didn't heal him. The authority of Jesus did.
Okay, say more about that. Peter didn't heal him.
That's what the source emphasizes. It isn't a subtle point, it's a central tenet presented. What it means for human agency versus divine power is profound. It underscores that the healing, the miraculous outcome, isn't derived from Peter's inherent ability, his personal holiness, or some magical talent he possesses.
It wasn't about Peter being special.
Not in the sense of him being the source of power. Instead, Peter is acting as a channel, a vessel, or an instrument through which the delegated power and authority associated with the name of Jesus flows. Peter himself is simply the delivery system, demonstrating that the power lies entirely with the one whose name he invokes.
So Peter is essentially demonstrating that he's not the source of the power, but rather the connection point, the one who knows how to use the key, maybe.
That's a great way to put it, yes.
It reinforces the idea that the name acts as a direct link to the ultimate authority, and that link is what facilitates the transformative action. It's not about how eloquent Peter was or how much faith Peter had in his own abilities, but the power that was accessible through the name he invoked.
That's it.
That makes the power far more accessible to anyone, not just extraordinary figures.
Precisely. It shifts the credit and the origin of the power entirely to the identity behind the name. This is crucial because it makes the power accessible, in theory, to anyone who invokes the name within this framework, regardless of their own personal capabilities or inherent spiritual stature, as long as they're acting as that conduit.
Because the source is consistent.
Exactly. It means the power is consistent because its source is consistent and unchanging. It's not about the strength of the person's personality, but the strength of the name's authority.
And this idea of access through the name isn't just limited to these historical accounts. The source material also brings in a promise from John 14:13, where Jesus himself tells his disciples, "Whatever you ask in my name, that I will do."
A big promise.
It sounds incredibly broad, almost like a blank check, a limitless promise. But how do we reconcile such an expansive promise with this concept of authority we've been discussing? Is it truly limitless, or are there, nuances?
This is where the nuance of asking in my name becomes vital. It's not just any asking, it's asking with the backing and authorization that the name implies.
Right, the authority piece again.
It's like asking for something with a king's signet ring. You're not asking on your own authority, but on his. The source clarifies this by stating, because his name is a key that opens what hell tried to lock down.
The key again opens what hell tried to lock down.
Yeah, this analogy of a key is incredibly illustrative, because a key isn't a magical wand. It's a precise instrument designed to unlock specific mechanisms. It signifies that the name is the means of access, not the power itself.
What hell tried to lock down? That phrase is so evocative. What could that practically mean for someone listening right now in their own life? I imagine that phrase could resonate in so many different, deeply personal ways beyond just the theological.
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely meant to resonate broadly and deeply with the human experience of feeling constrained, prevented from moving forward, or stuck in seemingly insurmountable situations. What hell tried to lock down, from this theological perspective, can be extrapolated to cover a vast array of life's challenges and barriers that feel utterly insurmountable, or that seem to be actively working against our well-being and potential.
Like what specifically? Can you give examples?
Sure. This could include things like blocked opportunities. Imagine feeling perpetually stuck in your career, unable to find a job despite your best efforts, or facing inexplicable resistance to progress in various life endeavors. The source suggests these could be lockdown areas.
Okay, what else?
Persistent spiritual oppression. This might manifest as a pervasive sense of being weighed down by unseen forces, or struggling with spiritual attacks that leave one feeling drained and defeated, despite seeking help.
Things you can't quite put your finger on.
Sometimes, yeah. Or emotional strongholds. Think of deep-seated chronic fears that paralyze you, persistent cycles of anxiety or depression that therapy alone hasn't fully broken, or even addictive patterns that seem to have an unbreakable grip despite intense personal effort and support.
Things that just won't let go.
Right. Or even the suppression of human potential. This could be feeling perpetually unable to live up to your calling, or being held back from achieving personal growth and fulfillment, as if an invisible ceiling is always present.
Wow.
And finally, maybe barriers to well-being. This extends to chronic illness that defies diagnosis or conventional treatment, persistent financial hardship that seems to follow you, or relational brokenness that seems to defy all attempts at reconciliation.
So a really wide range of difficult human experiences.
Exactly. The name in this context is presented as the singular, divinely provided means to unlock these specific barriers, to provide breakthrough where there was stagnation, and to bring freedom where there was bondage. It's not a generic key for any door. From this perspective, it's the master key, specifically designed to counteract attempts at suppression and limitation, particularly those attributed to forces of darkness.
That brings us to another fascinating point the source makes. And when you speak his name in faith, you're not speaking alone. That idea of faith keeps coming up in discussions around this topic. What's its essential role here? Is it a prerequisite or something that grows through the process? How does it interact with the invitation?
The role of faith here is presented as absolutely essential. It suggests that the utterance of the name isn't a mere sound, a mechanistic action that works automatically, like flipping a switch.
Not just reciting the word.
No. It's an invocation rooted in an active belief or conviction. It's not just about lip service. It's about an internal alignment with the authority that the name represents. The phrase, "you're not speaking alone," is profoundly powerful because it implies a direct partnership with, or backing from, the very source of the name's authority.
A partnership.
Yes. When you speak the name in faith, You are not simply projecting your own desires or limited strength. You are, according to the source, activating a profound alliance with the power behind the name.
So it's not just you against the problem anymore.
Exactly. This alliance means that the effectiveness isn't dependent on the loudness of your voice or the eloquence of your prayer, but on the connection established through that belief. It suggests that the speaker is not an isolated individual trying to move mountains by sheer will, but rather an agent through whom a greater power is flowing, with divine support and intervention immediately available.
That sounds incredibly empowering.
It is. This partnership provides the confidence that the utterance of the name is not just a hopeful whisper, but an effective, divinely backed declaration, because the ultimate power is standing with you.
This deep dive really reveals why this name is such a central point of contention, almost like a spiritual battleground, if you will. The source makes a really provocative statement that caught my attention. The enemy doesn't flinch when you say God vaguely, but say Jesus. Watch the room shift.
Yeah, that's a striking claim.
It is. That's a very distinct observation. Why this specific sensitivity? Why the dramatically different reaction according to the source material?
Well, this distinction is crucial to the source's argument, its understanding of spiritual dynamics. It highlights a perceived difference in how various spiritual forces react to generic versus specific invocations. The term God can be interpreted broadly across countless belief systems, philosophies, even secular contexts.
It means different things to different people.
Exactly. It's a universal concept that can be molded to fit almost any framework, from a deistic creator to a vague spiritual force. Therefore, for the enemy, as described in the source, representing opposing spiritual forces, a vague or generic reference to God doesn't, from its perspective, pose a direct, specific, or unique threat.
It's too general.
It lacks the precision and the unique theological claims that provoke a visceral response, according to this view.
So, if I understand correctly, the source is saying it's about the unique identity and specific claims associated with that particular name, then. It's not just any divine reference.
Exactly. The source is very clear on this point. Because Jesus is not generic, he is not one of many.
Not one of many.
This highlights the uniqueness and exclusivity attributed to the name within this theological framework. The name Jesus is tied to a particular, specific theological narrative that includes not only creation and divine authority, but critically, a definitive victory over darkness, evil, and death, and ultimately a path to salvation.
The whole story associated with the name.
Yes. It embodies a specific, non-negotiable claim of dominion and ultimate authority over these forces. The specificity, the singular identity, and the historical and theological narrative associated with it is precisely what is presented as a direct challenge to opposing forces.
So that's why the reaction.
From this perspective, yes. It's an undisputed declaration of a particular victory and a particular pathway for humanity, which is why, from this perspective, it provokes a direct, immediate, and described as visceral reaction from the enemy. There's like a direct hit, rather than a glancing blow that can be easily dismissed or ignored.
That really brings us to what the source considers the core of the opposition, doesn't it? That the source then brings in Acts 4.2, a truly stark and absolute statement. There is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved.
Yeah, that's a very direct, very exclusive claim.
It is. That's a profound, singular claim for a world with so many diverse spiritual paths and beliefs.
It is, and within the theological framework of our source, this statement underpins the entire rationale for the intense opposition described.
Right.
To unpack no other name, we must grasp its profound implications. This statement positions the name not merely as powerful, but as uniquely salvific, meaning it's presented as the sole means of rescue or deliverance for humanity from spiritual peril. In a world where many paths to enlightenment or spiritual fulfillment are often presented as equally valid or interchangeable, this claim stands out as absolute and exclusive from this particular viewpoint.
Only one way, according to this source.
Within the consistent framework of our source, yes, it means there is one and only one designated conduit for ultimate salvation or deliverance from the deepest forms of spiritual peril or darkness. This absolute claim of exclusivity is presented as the fundamental reason for the stated enemy opposition.
Why? Because it's the only escape route.
You could put it that way. If there is a singular, effective path away from their influence and dominion, then that path and the name that unlocks it becomes their primary target for suppression and silencing. It threatens their very existence and influence over humanity, according according to this perspective.
So if that's the case, if it's truly presented as the singular path to salvation, it makes perfect sense that there would be a concerted effort from this perspective to silence this name. Our source claims that's why the enemy wants to silence his name in culture, in schools, even in churches.
That last one is particularly striking.
It is. Why, from the source's perspective, is this silencing effort so prevalent and seemingly strategic? Why these places?
Because, as the source unequivocally states, that name is dangerous to darkness.
Dangerous to darkness.
Yeah.
What does that imply exactly?
It's just a direct active threat. It's a disruptive force that inherently works against negative influences, and it acts as an antidote that actively dismantles opposing power structures. If darkness represents chaos, bondage, despair, and separation from ultimate good,
Then the name represents the opposite.
precisely, then this name is presented as the ultimate force for light, freedom, hope, and connection. Therefore, for the enemy, as understood by the source, silencing this name isn't just about reducing its popularity, it's about neutralizing an existential threat to their perceived domain and influence over human lives. It's about preventing its liberating power from being accessed.
And how might this silencing manifest in these different domains the source mentions? It's not always an overt ban, is it? It sounds potentially more subtle and pervasive than that.
Oh, absolutely. From this perspective, it can be quite insidious and multifaceted. According to the source, this silencing could manifest in several ways, often not through direct prohibition, but through more subtle means.
Like how in culture, for instance.
Okay, in culture, it might involve de-emphasizing the name, trivializing its significance, or outright mocking it. Think of how deeply held spiritual beliefs can sometimes be caricatured in media.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Or how profound spiritual concepts might be dismissed as outdated, naive, or irrelevant to modern life. It becomes about diluting its impact, making it seem less potent or even ridiculous, so people don't even consider its claims seriously.
Kind of pushing it to the margins.
Right. There might be a general social pressure to keep faith private and not bring it into the public square, subtly pushing the name out of common discourse.
Okay, what about schools?
In schools, it could involve restricting its mention or presence in curriculum, discussions, or even personal expression. This isn't necessarily about outright censorship, but maybe creating an environment where the name is either absent or contextually marginalized.
In the name of neutrality, perhaps.
Possibly, yes, or inclusivity, thereby removing its perceived power and historical impact from general academic understanding or open discussion among students. It limits exposure and understanding, basically.
And then the last one, which you said was striking, even in churches, how could it be silenced there?
Yeah, this one is jarring. It suggests a subtle erosion of its full power or unique significance within its own intended context. This might involve preaching that softens its absolute claims, maybe focusing more on universal love without the specific exclusive power attached to the name.
Watering it down.
Potentially. Or a focus on broader theological concepts that dilute the specific unique power attributed to the name Jesus. Implies that the opposition is so pervasive that it can even infiltrate the very institutions meant to uphold its significance, leading to a kind of self-imposed silencing or a loss of conviction regarding its unique authority.
Wow.
This highlights the pervasive nature of the perceived opposition, suggesting it works from both outside and perhaps even from within the very communities that profess its importance.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Moving from the broader cosmic implications to the intensely personal, the source makes a deep connection with a very human experience, one that I think many of us can relate to. It says, maybe you're overwhelmed, maybe you're broken, maybe you've run out of words.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Absolutely. That's a deeply relatable depiction of those moments of profound distress when you just can't articulate what you're feeling, when coherent prayer seems impossible, when you simply don't have the mental or emotional capacity to form sentences. It's a common human condition.
It absolutely is. This acknowledges a universal vulnerability, those times when the weight of life or personal suffering becomes so immense that our capacity for coherent thought or expression simply collapses.
You just freeze up.
Exactly. When we're overwhelmed or in deep pain, finding the right words, or any words at all, for prayer, or even just to express our state to another person can feel utterly impossible. The source here validates this common human feeling of articulate inability, recognizing that structured language often fails in moments of profound emotional or spiritual crisis.
It's like saying, it's okay if you can't find the words.
Precisely. It's a point of profound empathy, setting a stage for a solution that transcends the need for perfect articulation or theological sophistication. It's a lifeline offered when everything else feels too heavy.
And this leads to a powerful, reassuring suggestion from the source. You don't need a perfect prayer, you just need the name that still opens tombs.
Wow, opens tombs.
That metaphor is so evocative, isn't it? Especially given our earlier discussion about the power to raise the dead. What does it truly mean to open tombs in this context?
The metaphor of opens tombs is incredibly potent and deeply rooted in the biblical narrative of resurrection. It directly echoes that earlier mentioned ability to raise the dead and signifies bringing life, hope, and breakthrough to situations that appear dead, hopeless, or utterly insurmountable.
The impossible situation.
Yes. Think about what a tomb represents. Finality, impossibility, the end of all hope, a place where life is definitively over. To open tombs means to reverse the irreversible, to bring light into the darkest, most stagnant, most dead places in life.
So not just literal death.
No. It implies that the deepest, most entrenched barriers, whether they are personal traumas, long-standing illnesses, seemingly irreconcilable relationships, or overwhelming financial despair, the situations that seem utterly beyond any human remedy can, from this perspective, be overcome through the simple act of invoking the name.
Just the name itself.
This truly emphasizes the profound effectiveness of simple invocation over complex or eloquent language. It makes the power accessible even in moments of profound struggle, when all other faculties might fail you. You don't need theological training or poetic skill, you just need to utter the name.
So the power is in the name itself, or rather the authority behind it, not in our ability to craft an elaborate prayer. That's incredibly liberating for anyone who has ever felt speechless in moments of crisis.
It is.
And the source then guides us on where to speak this name, making it very personal and actionable. Speak it over your fear. Speak it over your children. Speak it over your past. Speak Jesus. This isn't just a general concept, it's a direct call to action, to direct this power into specific, vulnerable areas of your life.
Yes. This segment moves directly from understanding the power to actively applying it in your life. Speaking it over implies a declarative act, a plea, or an assertion of the authority and spiritual reality we've discussed earlier in this deep dive.
It sounds very intentional.
It is. It's about intentionality directing the stated authority and power towards specific, often deeply personal, areas of life where you might be experiencing distress or a lack of control. Let's break down these specific applications the source gives.
Okay.
Speak it over your fear. This directly addresses internal, emotional, and psychological struggles. It's about confronting chronic anxieties, phobias, a general sense of dread, or specific fears that can paralyze us and prevent us from moving forward.
Actively pushing back against fear with the name.
Exactly. It's presented as an act of spiritual counter-assertion against internal turmoil, allowing that higher authority to calm the inner storm. Imagine that knot in your stomach when facing an impossible deadline, or the tremor in your voice when confronting a difficult conversation. Speaking the name here is presented as an active step to invite peace and courage.
Okay, then over your children.
Speak it over your children. This suggests intercession, protection, and blessing for loved ones. It implies bringing the covering and authority of the name to bear on their lives, their well-being, their choices, and their future.
Especially when you feel helpless as a parent.
Precisely. Particularly in moments of parental concern, helplessness, or when you feel their struggles are beyond your direct control. It's presented as an act of spiritual guardianship, invoking that greater power on their behalf.
And the last one, over your past. That sounds big.
It is big. Speak it over your past. This indicates a means to address historical burdens, persistent guilt, deep regret, or lingering negative influences from previous experiences, or even generational patterns that seem to follow you.
Things that still hold you back.
Right. It's about seeking healing, release, and freedom from the chains of what has been, allowing the past to no longer dictate the present or future. It's presented as a way to dismantle the residual power of past mistakes or hurts, and to invite healing and restoration.
So in each case, it's applying this authority directly.
Yes. In each instance, speaking Jesus is presented not as a passive wish, but as a declarative act of faith, a means of invoking that powerful tomb-opening authority directly into the specific, challenging circumstances of your life, transforming them from within or from above, and providing a gateway to breakthrough and liberation. It's about bringing that heaven-backed authority into your personal reality.
And finally, the source brings it all together with a powerful reiteration of the profound cosmic consequences attributed to this seemingly simple, deeply personal act of speaking the name. Because when you say his name, heaven moves, hell shakes, and chains fall.
That's quite a statement.
It really is. It's a description of an immediate universal response across all realms, reinforcing the concept of dominion established earlier in our deep dive.
Indeed, this concluding statement is a powerful summary of everything we've discussed, painting a vivid picture of an immediate and decisive cosmic reaction to the invocation of the name. Heaven moves.
What does that signal?
It implies divine action, a dispatching of assistance, a recognition and alignment from the highest spiritual powers, indicating that your plea is heard and acted upon at a cosmic level.
Okay, and hell shakes, we touched on that.
Right, it reinforces the idea of immediate disruption and defeat for opposing forces, a tangible response of fear and destabilization in the face of this overwhelming authority, and chains fall.
That's the personal impact, isn't it?
Yes, that's perhaps the most evocative and relatable image for the listener on a personal level. It's a powerful image of liberation and release from various forms of bondage, whether physical, emotional, spiritual, or circumstantial, directly linking the utterance of the name to freedom and breakthrough.
So the simple act has huge ripple effects.
Exactly. It means that the simple act of speaking the name, from this perspective, is not just a personal utterance, but an event with universal repercussions, activating a powerful dynamic that leads to freedom and breakthrough in your life. Hashtag outro.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to bring it all back to your personal experience, to your sense of empowerment and hope. Given everything we've just unpacked about the profound authority, the eternal identity, and the extraordinary power attributed to this name according to our source material, well, we hope you feel reassured. You are not forgotten. You are not powerless in the face of life's overwhelming challenges, and you are certainly not fighting alone.
That's the overarching message from the scriptures and commentaries we've explored, crystallized. You have a name that, from this perspective, goes before you, clearing paths and preparing the way.
A name that covers you.
Yes, providing protection and a shield. And it's a name that fights for you, actively intervening on your behalf in the unseen realms and in your tangible reality. This implies not just passive protection, but active advocacy and proactive support in your life's battles.
And that leads us to a final provocative thought for you to mull over after this deep dive. Given everything we've explored about the name Jesus, how it's described as carrying heaven's seal and making hell tremble, what does it truly mean for you to integrate this understanding into your daily life?
Yeah, how does this land practically?
Right. How might embracing this perspective reshape your approach to personal challenges, perceived limitations, or even those moments when you feel utterly overwhelmed and don't know what to pray, knowing that a simple utterance is presented as such a profound act? Something to think about.
Definitely.
And that name is Jesus.